Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sunday Story. Today's Sunday Story is for all the worriers out there, and I include myself in that. If you are a world-class worrier, if you sweat the small stuff as well as the big stuff, then today's story is just for you. So without further delay, let's get to it. So today's story comes from about 2.5 years ago when I was on the very start of my journey as a trainer. To give this story a little bit of context, I've always been a worrier. I've always been someone that doesn't just worry about the big stuff, but I tend to worry about the really small stuff. The stuff that other people wouldn't give a second thought would be the things that I tend to get fixated on. So I was definitely what you would call a massive worrier. Now, when I first accepted this position, it was the first training job I'd ever done. And I was told straight away, don't worry, before you do any training of your own, you're going to get to spend some time with each of the trainers, get to watch them train, learn how they do it, get to see all the different styles, all that kind of stuff. And that really did make me feel kind of relieved that I was going to get to do that before I even did any of my own. But of course, real life doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to. So what actually happened, really busy at the time, we were flat out in terms of training, and I was told that what I'd actually get was to spend 2 days with one of the trainers, and then on the following Monday I'd be running my first session on my own. And as a worrier, I'm not gonna lie, that scared the absolute crap out of me. So then it came to obviously watching the trainer do a 2-day session. Now, the person that I got teamed up with is someone who's now a really great friend of mine, someone that I'll soon be doing some videos with, Ricky Locke. So Ricky Locke, just to give you a bit of context, as well as being an amazing guy and a fabulous trainer, is also a magician, and not only just a magician, he's an absolutely fantastic magician. So we went along to, I believe it was Eastbourne, was the session, and kind of what I decided to do was kind of just sit back and just watch him do it. Literally within about 20 minutes of watching this guy train, I was literally overcome with fear. He was a guy who was just an amazingly confident person, a brilliant showman, was able to kind of incorporate the whole magic element into his training, and quite clearly he had totally engaged the whole of the room. And all I was thinking at the time, and I remember thinking throughout that first morning, was just, oh my God, what have I done? Why have I agreed to take this position? I can't do it. I can't do what he does. I can't even shuffle a pack of cards, for God's sake. How can I do this? And I was so overcome with worry. But probably for most of the day, I kind of kept that to myself, and I kept smiling and putting on that face, like, yeah, everything was fine. It was a really great session. I was kind of so impressed with the level of training that Ricky had done. But kind of at the end of the session, I was a bit concerned, I'm not gonna lie. I really did think maybe I was a little bit out of my depth, in terms of I just didn't feel that I could do what he did. By this point, me and Ricky were getting to know each other quite a little bit. I think we were in the same hotel together that night, and obviously we had a chat, I think probably over dinner. And he said to me, like, how do you feel about doing your first session on Monday? And I remember saying, Ricky, I'm shitting myself. Sorry for the expletives, but I believe they were my actual words to Ricky. I was so scared that I was going to have to go and do this training, and let's be honest, I didn't really know the training that well at that point as well. But having seen kind of one of my teammates deliver it, really worried that I was never going to be able to reach that kind of standard. And I ended up having a really big discussion about it, and Ricky introduced me to something. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that it's completely and utterly changed my life, but it really has had a fundamental impact on how I context worry. So what he did was he showed me a thing from, I believe it's from a monk. It was developed by a monk. I'm going to put it on the screen at the moment. But it really, I think in a world where everything's so complicated, it's a really simple thing. And it really made me think about why I worry and what I worry about. So it starts like this. It starts with a question. Do you have a problem? Okay. So first of all, if the answer is no, then why worry? Of course that's true. If we don't have a problem, we've got nothing to worry about, right? I think we'd probably all agree with that. But what if the answer is yes? So do you have a problem? Yes. The next question would be, can you do something about it? And if the answer is yes, then why worry? Absolutely true, isn't it? If you've got a problem but you know you can do something about it, why are you worrying? Of course, your answer to that might be, do you have a problem? Yes. Can you do something about it? No. Well, guess what? Why worry? It sounds so simple, but it's actually extremely powerful. Because when you think about it, how many of us spend so much time and energy worrying about things that we have absolutely zero control over? Now that's wasted energy that we could actually be putting into finding a solution. We could be spending our time and energy doing that, but what we tend to do is get so fixated on the worry. I guess sometimes that worry can almost get us into like a victim mentality. And when you're in that victim mentality, it becomes really hard to focus on anything else. So you're kind of spending your energy on all of that, when actually you could be spending your energy saying, you know what, I can't control that this is happening or this has happened to me, but I can control how I respond to it. Okay? So it's a really, really simple concept, but I think it's a great concept, and I think you can pretty much apply it to anything. And I think for me, when he showed me it, I guess at that point it did blow my mind a little bit, because it was so simple, and it did make me realise actually how often do I spend time worrying about things that I have absolutely zero control of. Okay? So true, and even the example that I gave, I'm going to be doing this presentation on Monday. It's just how it is. I can spend all my time worrying about what might happen, and in my previous video we talked about this quite a lot, about how when you're fearful, the brain will create that worst case scenario, and that's kind of what you pour your energy into. When what I could be saying is, you know what, I can't control it. I am going to be delivering that on Monday. What can I do to prepare for it? And it really it kind of turned my mindset around a little bit. And all of a sudden I started to focus on what I needed to do to deliver a really good first presentation and first training session. Now, as it was, that first training session was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, it was a bit scary. I remember back then I was kind of getting my notes out, which of course I don't need to do at all anymore. And what I really found was, particularly with the whole magic thing, and the showman side of Ricky, that kind of really worried me, because it was like, God, is this what I'm going to be expected to do? Well, of course it wasn't what I was expected to do. Because as a trainer, everybody's got their own way of doing it. And I quickly realised, probably within about 2 training sessions, that actually, whilst that was kind of Ricky's style, my style was storyteller. That's why this venture is called PD Storytelling. I'm someone that I like to train, and I use personal stories quite a lot. I think it can really, I guess it really brings it to life, and I think it makes it more relatable. That's just the way I work. But it really kind of made me think about spending less time worrying about that and more think about how I'm gonna kind of carve out my style and carve out the way I train, rather than worry about the fact that I can't do magic, or can't shuffle a pack of cards, or pull a rabbit out of a hat. That was awful. Ricky doesn't pull rabbits out of hats. I don't think he pulls rabbits out of hats. His magic is absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure in future videos that we're going to do, you're going to get to see some of it. It's absolutely extraordinary. Okay, but that's his style, and this is my style. But the reason I tell that story is it was a really, really important moment for me, because I could have become quite overcome with fear at that point. And I think if I'd have gone into that with that fear, then I'm not sure I'd be kind of where I am today and the confident person I am today. We all spend far too much energy and time worrying rather than looking for the solution. We spend a lot of time thinking about things that, like I said, we have absolutely no control over, okay? So rather than spending that time and energy worrying about that, actually let's think about the solution. It goes back to what I said about the difference between an optimist and a pessimist. An optimist will see an opportunity where there's a problem. A pessimist will see a problem where there's an opportunity. And it's really about making that choice. So I'm going to keep it fairly short today, which is unusual for me. But I thought it was a really, really good story. If you are a worrier out there, kind of just think about that whole thing, Do you have a problem? More often than not, if you're worrying, of course, yes, you do. Can you do something about it? Yes, you can. Then why worry? If you can't do anything about it, why worry? Don't spend your time worrying. Spend your time thinking about what can I do to respond to it. And I think that's massively important. And hopefully that's something you can take away from this. I'm going to put a link to the video below, which is obviously from this monk. It's a really, really interesting video where he kind of really explains it in probably a lot better detail than I can. But I'd really encourage you to watch that video because, as I say, back then, 2.5 years ago, it was a bit of a game changer for me. That's not to say that I don't ever worry anymore. Of course I do. But back then, I probably would have worried about something and not got any sleep. And now I probably get a few hours. So it's certainly moved me forward a little bit. Okay, so just check it out. Sometimes I think we have a tendency in this world to overcomplicate everything. Sometimes it's the simple things that really do kind of, they're the things that are the game changers. They're the things that really do resonate. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it can just be so utterly simple, and that's what this concept is. So there we go. That's the story for today. So for any worriers out there, ask yourself, why worry? It's a really, really powerful question. As the popular song goes, in every life we have some trouble. When you worry, you make it double. Don't worry. And now I'd love to hear from you guys. Are you a worrier? Are you someone that has certain techniques to be able to deal with that worry? Please use the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. So until next time, thanks for watching. Remember, control the controllables and stay safe.